Welcome, everyone. My name is Denise Harlow. I'm the CEO of the National Community Action Partnership, and we're thrilled that you are on today's webinar. We've had a great response for folks who are interested in hearing more about a potential product available through Google Nest that will help our weatherization programs deploy modern technology to help local agencies help families decrease their energy burden. I think it's a win-win on all sides, so we're excited that you have joined us for today's webinar. I'm going to turn this over to Catherine, but I just wanted to say welcome and that we're glad you're here. Catherine?
Great. Thanks, Denise. Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. We're excited to have this webinar today with Serge Barrelson from Google Nest. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please note that, as Denise mentioned, we are recording the webinar. We also will be posting it on our website afterward, and we'll also be sending our slides out via email to everyone that registered. Also, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and post that in the chat box, and we'll be having responses to those at the end of the webinar. We also have all attendees on mute. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can always redial in going to the Communicate tab at the top of your screen. So with that, we'll get started. So again, I'm Catherine Maddox, and I'm the project director here at the National Community Action Partnership for the Weatherization Leverage Partnerships Project. The Community Action Partnership, as you may know, is a national hub for the 1,000 community action agencies and for the nearly 700 weatherization subgrantees. And to share a little bit more about our project, if you're not familiar with it, the Weatherization Leverage Partnerships Project is funded by the Department of Energy to offer training and assistance to the WAP network in designing private partnerships and programs that leverage the WAP. So we like to start off our webinars citing the promise of community action. So if you could join me in that. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. So to share a few resources and tools that we offer here through the Community Action Partnership, we have a weekly webinar series on Wednesdays typically around 2 p.m. Eastern. So we definitely want you to check those out and feel free to join in on those around all sorts of different promising practices. Our training and technical assistance. We have several topics that are included in that related to management and operations and also innovative practices, many of which relate to energy-related programs, including how to leverage DOE funds and how to incorporate renewable energy projects into your work. And we also want to make sure you know about our new resource library on our website. That's where you can search by topic or program area, and you can see here on how to get there from our website. You go to Tools and Resources and then Resource Library. And before we turn it over to our speaker today, we just want to make sure you know about our Management and Leadership Training Conference. We hope you can make it. It's January 8th to 10th in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And so now we'll turn it over. I'll introduce our speaker. So Serge Barrelson is the Manager of Energy Regulatory and Governmental Affairs for Home Nest Products at Google Nest, which includes the Nest Learning Thermostat and Thermostat E. In that capacity, he is responsible for relations with the federal and state governmental energy agencies in the western U.S. and is the policy lead for Nest's low-income power project initiative throughout the country. Serge has spent 10 years building his career in the energy sector, Before joining Google Nest, Serge was the manager of regulatory strategy at the residential energy storage firm SunVerge, with a focus on developing storage policy across the U.S. Prior to that, Serge spent 5 years at OPower. As a senior regulatory analyst, he helped create OPower's low-income services. Serge began his career in the Policy and Planning Division of the California Public Utilities Commission and received his MA in Economic and Social History with a focus on environmental economics from the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. He was born and raised in beautiful Northern California and currently resides in San Francisco. Okay, Serge, so pass this over to you.
Thanks, Catherine. So can you all see my screen here and hear me all right?
Yes.
And just quickly, when I advance the slide, does it advance on your end as well?
Yes, it does.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and of course, thank you so much to CAP for allowing me to speak. I attended the conference in Chicago, and it was really a pleasure to meet a lot of the folks, hopefully, who are on the webinar as well. If I didn't get to meet you, I hope I do soon. But it really is an honor and a pleasure to be able to speak to you folks about our Power Project Low and Moderate Income Initiative. So you can see we always kick off with the cute kid here. Really brings people in. So super excited to talk to you about this today. Now, normally I start off these presentations because it's not normally, it's not always to experts such as yourself with a couple slides on what energy burden is and how it affects society. To say that I'm preaching to the choir on this call is probably quite an understatement. So I'm not going to go through all of these because you all know and understand these realities and deal with them every day. But this is important in context setting in a lot of the conversations that we have. And we know that energy burdens are an unfortunate reality, and that leads to some difficult choices. Again, this is another slide that I often use in context setting that you will all be intimately familiar with. We know a lot of households in the United States are dealing with a high energy burden, and they have to make some pretty tough choices. Choices that I suspect you all encounter, in your work every day. But as we think about attacking the energy burden, I think it's important that we stop and really congratulate all of you, as well as the utilities and other agencies, affordable housing agencies, and others who've spent decades combating these high energy burdens enormously successfully. I think the impact that you all have is huge, and very much appreciated by your customers, and really making a huge impact. But I think one of the difficulties is that the need continues to outpace the funding that's available. There's always more folks in need, and so that leads to program administrators such as yourselves needing to maximize the investment that you're making by focusing on the measures that have the most impact. And so, when we think about impactful measures, we know that heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC, represents, about half of the average household's energy consumption. And so what that means is that any, technology, any measure that we can employ to impact that enormous slice of the pie here is obviously incredibly important. However, we also know that just 2% of low-income households in North America have smart thermostats. And this is, on the one hand, a little bit unfortunate, but on the other hand, I think represents a huge opportunity, one that we're very excited to help you tackle. And so this sort of pie-shaped opportunity happens to have a somewhat pie-shaped solution in the form of the Nest thermostat. And so, before I get into the Power Project itself, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about the thermostats themselves, what they are, how they work, and sort of the key details. So we launched in fact, the entire smart thermostat category. We created it when we launched the original Nest Learning thermostat that you see here back in 2011. And the energy savings features of the thermostat, the occupancy sensor, the smart learning algorithms, the ease of use, the comfort have driven enormous benefit, and you can see that here. The 38 billion kilowatt hours that we've saved is equivalent to $2.5 billion in bill savings, and that's really a huge impact that we're very, very proud of. And the way that these occupancy sensor and smart learning algorithms and the other features, they drive, on average, 10 to 12% heating load savings and 15% average cooling load savings. And that's the way that we've been able to achieve the numbers that I showed you on the previous screen. But I think it's important to note that while we are very proud of what we've done, we're also always looking to improve. And so one of the things that we did was constantly survey both the folks that bought the product as well as folks that might have considered it and didn't purchase it. And we heard some interesting things. The first was that folks want to save energy and they want it to be easy, and that's really the genesis of Nest as a tool. The thermostat as a tool was to not only save energy but to make it easy. But at the same time, what we heard from a lot of folks was that they wanted a product that feels a little bit less techy, less of an iPhone on the wall feeling, which can be intimidating for some folks. And because of that, they wanted the people in the home, rather than the hardware, to be the focus. And that's really important, is focusing on our customers. We're always a customer-first company, and so really taking all of this information in to improve our products is critical to the process. And then finally, the original Nest Learning thermostat that you saw on the previous page was very much released as a premium product. It retailed at $249. Definitely a very advanced product. It was designed by the same guy who designed the iPod. So it is certainly on the higher end. And a lot of folks felt that it was just too expensive and out of their reach. And so one of the things that we tried to do was to take all of this in stride and to create another thermostat that can supplement the original. And so what we created is the Nest Thermostat E that you see here. Now, we really wanted to, again, incorporate all of that feedback. And so first of all, in terms of price, this retails for $169 rather than $249, so a pretty big cost savings. But the main question I get when I talk about this thermostat is, what's the difference? And that really comes down to two things. The first is the materials it's made of. So you can see the white ring here instead of the stainless steel ring on the original, the frosted display instead of the LCD display on the original. So the materials being different. And then there's a very small compatibility difference. So the original Nest Learning thermostat is compatible with more stages of heating and cooling than the Nest Thermostat E, but the Thermostat E is nonetheless compatible with about 85% of HVAC systems in North America. And the delta between those two, the 85% compatibility of the Thermostat E versus about 95% for the Nest Learning thermostat, is again those multi-stage kind of higher-end HVAC systems that you don't see a ton of in the mass market, and particularly in the sort of low-income space. So to kind of sum this all up, and I should add actually, but besides that, all of the energy savings features are exactly the same. In fact, all of the features are exactly the same between the two thermostats. So the same energy efficiency capabilities via the occupancy sensor and the learning algorithms, the same ability to control with a smartphone, the same ability to access comfort easily and accessibly. So all the same between the two thermostats. So the way that I always put it is, the body of the two thermostats may be different, but the brains are the same. And then I also want to take this time to note a little bit of a myth about our thermostats, which is that they might not function without Wi-Fi. And again, that's a myth. So these thermostats, they both have all of the features built directly into the device itself. So that would be, again, the occupancy sensor and all of the computing are physically in the device and not in the cloud, which means that the thermostat can function with or without Wi-Fi, delivering those key energy efficiency features. Now, of course, there are some nice-to-haves that come with being able to connect to Wi-Fi, controlling with the smartphone app, geofencing, participating in utility demand response programs being a few of them. But the core value of the thermostat is there with or without Wi-Fi. And of course, we think that's very important, particularly among the low-income segment. Not all of our competitors are the same way. Some of them put all the smarts in the cloud, but we very purposely put them all in the device itself. And I think, I also want to note that it's very important to us that this has the mark of Energy Star. Energy Star is of course, a hugely important validation of our product. In fact, we were the first Energy Star certified smart thermostat. Both of our models are certified. And, again, not to belabor the point, but Energy Star functionality is not given to those thermostats that don't function without Wi-Fi. So, again, we're very, very proud of that. And then, kind of lastly, on the thermostats themselves, I want to talk about the integration with smart assistants. So now that we're fully part of Google, we have access to the full suite of Google Assistants. Google Assistant, of course, being comparable to some lesser rivals, the Amazon Alexa and Siri, and it's the voice assistant. And so what this allows you to do is to speak to your devices, whether through a smart speaker, a smart display like you see here, or even your phone, your smartphone. And this enables a few cool things. So in some utilities where they have had this integration in place, you can pay your bill, report outages, and track usage via voice. So you can ask Google, hey Google, can I pay my bill? What's my usage? Those sort of things. You're able to gain insights on energy efficiency and optimize your use, which is obviously a really cool feature as well. The thermostat is also, via the Google Assistant, able to incorporate load flexibility, so shifting load from peak times and responding to time varying rates, time of use rates, which are coming into a lot of territories. And then lastly, and I think very importantly for this presentation, is accessibility. So the voice control enables a lot of folks, and I think particularly valuable for disabled folks and senior folks, to control their thermostat and other devices via voice. And this is really important when we think about folks, again, disabled, senior, and others with limited mobility, to remain in their homes, to age in place, to stay comfortable, and to be able to control their environment and their thermostats just with their voice from anywhere in the home. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly because it's a very, very exciting development. So with that, I want to jump into the Power Project itself, and that's our low and moderate income initiative. That's really the focus of today's discussion. You can see the website there. Don't feel free to write it down furiously. If you just Google Nest Power Project, it's the first site that comes up. I'm going to show you a couple screenshots from it in a few moments here. But just wanted to point you to that site if you're interested. So really, to set the stage here, this is our low and moderate income initiative that we launched on Earth Day 2018. And just to give you some background, we call Earth Day Nest Christmas because it's one of kind of the few days of the year where there's a significant kind of national focus on the environment, on energy, on climate. And in the past, we've done things about the environment, about getting outside, helping the environment, those sorts of things. But on Earth Day 2018, we wanted to take a little bit of a different approach. And that was to focus on the issue of high energy burdens of energy poverty. And so the goal here was to use our brand to shine a light on the fantastic work that you all and your peers have been doing for a very long time. And to make a few additions of our own. The first, and really probably the most interesting to the folks on this call, is we made a commitment to provide 1 million Nest thermostats at cost for us to any low and moderate income programs in North America. And that can be from a utility, that can be from a weatherization agency or subgrantee, it can be from an affordable housing agency, basically anyone who is focusing on low and moderate income homes. And I want to pause here very quickly to talk a little bit about the moderate income facet. I think we all are aware that sometimes the thresholds for low income can be a little constraining. Here in California, the metric is 200% of federal poverty level, and if you're at 201%, it's not like you're rolling in money. And so we wanted to give ourselves a bit of leeway in being able to provide these thermostats to both the programs that work with low-income households specifically, but also those folks who might be 201%, 250%, et cetera. And so we wanted to have a little bit more breadth in that offering. So that's the policy and programmatic side, and that's what I spend most of my time on. But the other side of this is the marketing piece. And so a big part of that was partnering with Habitat for Humanity, not only in terms of marketing, but we provided them with a Nest thermostat for every home they build or refurbish in 2018 and 2019. And we're currently discussing continuing that partnership into 2020. And we've also done quite a bit of volunteering with them, particularly all over the country, but particularly in our backyard in Northern California to the areas that were affected by the wildfires, so helping to build and rebuild homes there. We've also built a platform that aims to localize this issue and facilitate consumer donations. And I'm going to show you a screenshot of that on the next page using localized census and LIHEAP data. And this was done sort of in partnership with a national ad campaign. And really the goal here was, for those of us on this webinar, the issue of energy burden is something we deal with every day. But it's not something that the average person might be aware of. And so the goal here was to, again, use our brand to shine a light on this issue that you're all, very much, deeply involved in, to make the case to the average person that, you might have a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, maybe even a family member who's dealing with a high energy burden, and to really raise the profile of this issue as we continue to, try to help these folks out. So this, on this slide, you can see a screenshot of the website, and again, this is localizing this issue. So someone put in their zip code here, 10018, and it shows how many folks in that area spend more than 20% of their income on their utility bills. So, really, again, localizing the issue of the energy burden. You can also see there's an option to both give and get help. And we surface local, state, and national organizations there, and again, with the goal of really localizing this issue. So, I talked a little bit about what the Power Project is, but I also want to dive a little bit into the deployments and results, because this is all well and good to talk about at a high level, but I'm sure you're all interested in what we've done, what we're doing, the results, and how you can get involved. So I think that begs the question of how does the Thermostat E benefit low-income households? And the way that we think about it is really in two facets. The first is the customer side, the benefits to the customer. So first and foremost is bill savings. So again, the smart learning algorithms, the occupancy sensor, the thermostat is really designed in no small part to drive energy efficiency. And of course, that has the very impactful result of reducing bills. But equally importantly, I think, is the fact that the thermostat is designed to help manage this process. And so, again, the ability to automatically turn the thermostat down or up, as the case may be based on the season, when you leave the home, to learn the habits of the occupant, these are really important things that kind of take the burden of managing this process off the shoulder of these folks. And, I'm sure we've all been in a position where, you have your HVAC system on and you leave the house and forget to turn it off, and you come home to a an overly heated or cooled house, as the case may be, and unfortunately a surprise on your bill at the end of the month. And this thermostat is really designed to take on that load and really just ensure that the customer doesn't have to be thinking about that. But at the same time as bill savings are important, comfort is obviously equally important. I mentioned earlier that we are a customer-first company, and so when I say comfort, when we're talking about bill savings, I don't mean that we're turning the thermostat all the way down in the middle of winter just to get those kilowatt-hour savings. The thermostat is able on its own to balance the energy efficiency piece with the comfort piece, and it does this by learning the habits of the occupants, where they like the thermostat set, and adding some energy efficiency as well. And again, allowing the automation of this process. So, folks don't have to get in and set the thermostat every day. It will actually, after a learning period, do that for them. So that's the customer side of things. On the other side is the utility, weatherization agency, subgrantee benefits. So first part is that the thermostat maximizes the value of weatherization. And it does this by adding an advanced layer of controls and energy efficiency to the HVAC system, increasing the value of the other measures. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that means using an example in a couple of slides here. The other element of this, and this is something that we hear often directly from our weatherization partners and utility partners, is the thermostat is a visual indicator of the work that you do. Now, I know that everyone on this call would agree that insulation and efficient appliances and weather stripping are the coolest, sexiest things on the planet, but the average customer doesn't necessarily think of it that way. And they don't necessarily see those things every day. But the thermostat is something that they see and use often. And one of the things that we've heard from our partner agencies is that, this is a badge of honor, both for the customer because they get to have, a great new piece of technology, but also for the agencies in that it's a visual demonstration of the work that they do to help these customers. And the customers feel very proud and a connection to, the folks like yourselves who are coming into their homes and improving their lives. So, a very important facet there. And the other element is the thermostat is designed to reach everyone. So you can see here it's, big, easy to read numbers, very simple to use interface, whether physically on the device or on the app, just designed to be as simple as possible. And I want to call out something that I think is particularly important. One of the biggest concerns that I hear from particularly the weatherization folks and subgrantees is, my senior folks won't be able to use this. And I think one of the best responses that we've seen is the thermostat itself is designed, that outer ring, the way that you turn up and down the temperature, you turn the outer ring clockwise to turn the temperature up and counterclockwise to turn the temperature down. Now, this happens to be the exact same interface as the old Honeywell thermostats from the 50s and 60s, and that's not an accident. So the thermostat was designed so that anyone can walk up to it and intuitively use it. And we've heard some really good feedback from our partners on seniors having absolutely no issue using this, and in no small part because of that familiar feature. And then lastly, the thermostat has language options. So both on the thermostat and on the app, if connected to Wi-Fi, you can turn the thermostat into Spanish with the push of a button, which makes it obviously able to reach a much wider range of folks, and we're very proud of that ability. And we're adding more languages all the time to ensure that the thermostat is able to reach everyone. So these are some of the folks that have taken advantage of this program to date. And I want to point out how proud we are of the wide range of organizations here in terms of the type of organization, the states, the climates, the delivery models. There's really quite a wide range, represented here. And in particular, among these 30-plus partners, I want to point out the weatherization focused organizations who work with subgrantees as well. The Alaska Housing Finance Corporation, the Utah Workforce Services, Housing and Community Development, the Colorado Energy Office, that's the CEO logo that you see in Colorado there, as well as the Missouri Department of Economic Development. So again, a very wide range of folks, across all sorts of climates and organizations who are excited to take advantage of this program. So with that, I want to talk about a specific example and some results. And so this is from our low-income pilot with the Colorado Energy Office, the state weatherization administrator in Colorado, and the subgrantee Arapahoe County. And so this partnership was developed back in 2016, 2015, to provide them with 250 thermostats to use in their weatherization assistance program homes. The type of homes that were chosen were single-family, owner-occupied, and gas-heated, and importantly, there was no requirement for home Wi-Fi. And so the goal of this was to test a few things. The first was the energy savings, obviously being very important. The second was how low-income families and households are able to use the thermostat. Are they using it differently to other kinds of folks? What can we learn about that? The third was how easy was this for the installers to install both directly in the homes, and how easy was it for them to incorporate into their programs more broadly? And then finally, we wanted to learn how homes without Wi-Fi saved energy compared to those with Wi-Fi. And so the way that this program worked was that the Colorado Energy Office and Arapahoe County split their target weatherization homes into two groups. The first group got the standard suite of weatherization measures that you see across the country, and that includes a programmable thermostat. The second group got that exact same suite of measures, but with the Nest thermostat in place of the programmable thermostat. So the only difference between the two groups was the Nest thermostat. And so, I want to show you some results now. The standard suite of measures group saved 11.1% of energy compared to pre-weatherization consumption. This is a very healthy return for a program like this. They have every right to be proud of the work that they've done. But the Plus Nest group saved 18.4% of energy, which is a very, very significant increase, particularly considering the low cost and easy installation of the measure. And that low cost and high savings renders it very, very cost effective. So you can see here that using the NEAT tool, the Nest thermostats were able to attain a savings to investment ratio ranging from 4.3 to 8.6. So, very, very cost effective. But again, this was not just about the savings alone. We also wanted to understand how low-income folks were using the thermostats and whether there was any difference. And we were very pleased to see that just 5% of the thermostats were returned due to either client requests or hardware compatibility problems. And this is very much in line with the other measures that they're installing. And equally, that speaks very well to the ease of installation. We heard from the Colorado Energy Office and the installers that this was very easy to install and very easy to incorporate into their programs. And then finally, one of the things that we were very excited to see was that those homes that did not have Wi-Fi saved at commensurate levels with those that did, which is to say that lacking Wi-Fi does not negatively impact savings. And obviously, this was very important for us, in particular as we look to serve more of the low and moderate income community. But, I know what you're thinking. Look, the guy from Nest is on this webinar extolling the virtues of his products. Of course, he's going to tell us all the best things. But, don't just take my word for it. So the other day I had an opportunity to speak with George Robinette at the Community Action Agency of St. Louis. He's the Director of Housing and Support Services, including weatherization. And he had some very interesting and encouraging things to say. The first was that overall people have been very pleased with the Nest thermostat. There have been no complaints, and customers have gotten acclimated to the thermostat easily. It's a win-win for everybody. And I can't tell you how pleased we are to hear feedback like this directly from the folks doing the installs as sub-grantees. But, again, I don't want to be the one speaking be the only one speaking about our products. I think one of the fears that we hear often, particularly from installers, is I don't want to have to install this and then have people not like it and then I have to go back. It's not a great customer experience. It's not cheap for the installers to go back to homes. It's not efficient. And we were very encouraged, again, to hear George say that when they replaced their customers' mechanical thermostats with programmable thermostats, as they've been doing, they would often get requests to get the old mechanical thermostat back. And to date, no one has called to request their old thermostat back after receiving the Nest. So, that's a very encouraging sign that folks don't need to go back. And okay, I'm sorry, I have to do one more quote. This is from a fantastic report written by a number of agencies in Oregon, including the Weatherization Administrator, the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department, that looked at the 10-year plan for reducing the energy burden in Oregon. And they found that one measure, clearly stood head and shoulders above the rest in the terms of highest cost-effective achievable energy savings, and that was smart thermostats, in homes with gas furnaces. And this was, in fact, across all types of homes. Now, I can imagine you're thinking, okay, why does he keep giving, examples of gas programs? What are their electric results? Well, the study found that the second most cost-effective electric measure was smart thermostats as well. So, we're very excited by these findings and these quotes, both for those organizations looking well into the future and those installing thermostats right now. So to kind of wrap up the presentation here and before we get to the Q&A, there are really three key takeaways. The first is that smart thermostats drive quantifiable, cost-effective energy savings for low-income households. It's obviously very important, core to our mission, and very much in line with what the Power Project is trying to achieve. I think just as importantly, what we've seen again and again is that low-income households are able to use smart thermostats effectively. They don't have such different usage styles or living situations that render the thermostats ineffective. So these homes these folks are able to take advantage of all the features that the thermostat has to offer. And finally, smart thermostats are easy to install and integrate seamlessly into existing weatherization programs. And we've seen this in the Colorado example that I spoke about from George in St. Louis and many other programs. And so we're very excited about these results. We're very excited to be able to offer the thermostats at discount to everyone on this call, the sub-grantees. And with that, I'm going to wrap up and say thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you to CAP for having me. And I just want to put my email up here. If you're interested in getting in touch about purchasing these thermostats for your program, please feel free to reach out to me directly via that email or reach out to the CAP folks and they can connect you directly to me. So, with that, I will pass the ball back to Catherine. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And again, thanks everyone very much.
Go. Okay, Serge, we have a question here. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm just grabbing some water after having talked so much.
Okay. So does Nest have customer education material to help us teach our participants how to use the thermostat, including material to leave behind? And is there a helpline for installers or for the consumer? And if so, is that bilingual?
That is a great question. There are a few pieces there that I want to unpack. So the first is around customer education, obviously hugely important, and I think demonstrates the role you all play in getting these programs out to customers. So yes, we do have customer education materials. We have a fantastic leave behind piece of paper. It's a double-sided piece of paper, and it's just walks you through the setup process in getting the thermostat connected and up and running. And it's designed such that an installer could walk through that directly with a customer. That is available. I'm happy to send it out. And it's available in both English and Spanish, and very easy to print, double-sided, and leave behind. I think equally, and sort of embedded in that question, is customer support. And one of the fears that we often hear from weatherization subgrantees in particular is, I'm not a call center. What if the customer has a problem, and are they going to keep calling me? And we have a 24-hour helpline for our customers that they can call. It's staffed out of Austin, Texas, so here in the United States. And you can call them anytime and get help. And so we encourage our installers to provide that number as well. And it's also help is online in a number of different forms, so that the customers can easily get help, and the subgrantees aren't particularly overburdened answering questions about what can sometimes be a new measure for them. And then lastly, I think you mentioned around a support line for installers. So we also have a support line specifically for installers. It's called our Nest Pro line. And installers can call that number up to get help with any installation questions that they may have. And it's a very useful line because it's designed in such a way that the wait times are very low. And that's the reason for that is that if you're at a customer site and you're doing an installation, you can get an answer fairly quickly, so you don't have to, leave and come back, which is obviously not very efficient. So yes, I think, and please correct me if I missed any part of the question, but there's customer materials available for the customers and for the installers to help the customers walk through. There's help online and on the phone for both customers and installers as well.
Great, thank you. We have another question here about the cost. Can you share the cost per unit?
So I cannot share the cost per unit on a public webinar, but I am more than happy to share if you reach out to me, but I can say it's well below the $169 price. And what we've actually heard is that it's nearly competitive with the programmable thermostats that a lot of weatherization programs are purchasing. So I apologize for not giving an exact answer. Obviously, this is competitive information that we don't want to share on a public webinar, but feel free to email me, and I'm happy to walk you through those numbers.
Okay, and could you remind us again, what's the easiest way to order a thermostat?
So there's a couple of ways to do it. It kind of depends on volume. But the easiest way is just to email me, and for the kind of smaller size volume, we have a specific page set up particularly for low-income and other programs that qualify for the Power Project. It's very easy to use. It's a lot like any other online retailer, Amazon or what have you. You add the items to your cart and check out. Very, very simple. The only major difference is that we need to ensure that you are a legitimate low-income program installer, because we don't want, Joe Contractor from down the block getting these thermostats and just installing them for his friends. So we need to make sure that you're a legitimate program installer, so you register and then are approved. Luckily, being a CAP member makes that very easy. So, we have a very easy time verifying who is a legitimate installer.
Okay, thanks. Serge, do you mind making sure your email is up there, your contact information? Folks are asking to make sure to have that.
Yes, let me share that.
And also, we have a question about privacy concerns. How is data collected and what is collected?
That's a great question. So data is only collected anonymously, so we will never be able to associate your data specifically to you, and we only ever share data in aggregate, so we never share an individual thermostat's data, ever. And can you see my email? Is it up there now?
Yes, great, thank you.
Cool.
Data.
So if there's no Wi-Fi connection in the home, are you still collecting data?
No. In that case, we are not collecting data.
Okay. And how compatible are Nest thermostats with mini split systems that have their own wireless remotes?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm going to answer that and then sort of broaden the compatibility piece a little bit. So they are not compatible with mini splits, unfortunately. That's part of the 15% that Nest thermostats are not compatible with. I don't know how many mini splits we're seeing in low-income homes generally, but I would say any questions about compatibility, there's a fantastic compatibility checker on the Nest website. If you just Google Nest compatibility, it's the first site that comes up, and it's actually a walkthrough. You can enter any information about an HVAC system that you're looking at, and it will walk you through and determine whether it's compatible or not.
Okay, and another question. We install a lot of heat pumps in my area. We have to have an auxiliary heat lockout requirement below a certain outdoor temperature. Is the Nest compatible with outdoor sensors if someone doesn't have Wi-Fi?
That is a good question. We are definitely compatible with that type of heat pump. I don't believe Wi-Fi is required, but let me check on that, and I will follow up with you, Catherine. And if you want to connect me to whoever asked that question, or if that person wants to email me directly, but definitely compatible with heat pumps.
And we have a question here about what the lifetime of the Nest is used in meat.
That's a good question. I would have to look. It's in the evaluation of the Colorado report. I don't have it off the top of my head. I believe it's somewhere above 7 years. That's about, in terms of energy savings calculations, we generally see around 7 to 11 years used across the country. But I would have to look directly in that evaluation to find the neat value. And I'm happy to share that evaluation with whoever is interested in it.
Great, and a couple more questions. We've been told that the Nest thermostats are not compatible with our Ruud furnaces. Is that right?
With what?
RUUD Ruud furnaces.
I think the best thing to do is to just check on the compatibility checker for that.
Okay, and another question. I'm from California. Do you know if this product meets the CSD requirement?
In fact, it does. And very interestingly, when we first approached CSD, we were very surprised to find that they were already using Nest thermostats before we even had the discount. So, yep, they absolutely meet CSD requirements. We've tried to do more work with CSD, and whoever that is, would love to work with you, and please tell CSD to work with us more as well.
So we better get
Great. We do have a couple of questions about the evaluation and receiving copies of that. So if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, I think I have a copy already, but we'll make sure to distribute that when we send out the recording for the webinar as well.
Yeah. Catherine, please feel free to share that with whomever is interested. It's a very encouraging evaluation and definitely shareable.
Okay, we have another question. Weatherization materials are acquired by our contractors in many programs. What kind of paperwork will they have to do to prove the thermostats they are buying at a discount are going only to low-income recipients?
That's a good question. We really feel it's up to the weatherization agencies and subgrantees to ensure that installers are putting these thermostats into legitimate low and moderate income homes. I would say my experience is that the folks who do this kind of work tend to be very honorable folks. I think I've only in the, almost 2 years we've been running this program, I think I've run into only 1 or 2 examples of people, not doing the right thing. So, we really rely on our weatherization agency and subgrantee partners to ensure the installers are putting these in good faith.
Okay, well, it looks like that's the last of our questions.
Awesome.
So any last comments there, Serge, before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say thanks again for everyone who listened in. Really great questions. And, again, I just want to highlight, we really appreciate and are very thankful for the work that you all do and are deeply respectful of the work that you do. And we'd love to, help you drive additional energy savings. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions and happy to get you set up with ordering thermostats if that's of interest. So thanks so much, everyone, and definitely thanks to CAP, and look forward to speaking with you.
Thanks, Serge. I'm just going to wrap up here.
Great.
Thanks, everybody, again. We hope that you learned quite a bit here with this webinar. I'm going to go down to the end here. Make sure you have our contact information here at the partnership. So again, I'm Catherine Maddox, Project Director for Energy Partnerships here. There's a link to our website where we have a lot of material we hope you can check out, and we'd be happy to point you in the right direction if you're looking for something in particular. We'll be posting the webinar on that site as well. And again, a reminder about our Management Leadership Conference taking place in January. So thanks again so much, and thank you, Serge.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great week.